Back following developments from inside the courthouse of Donald Trump's hush money trial, and Michael Cohen's former banker, Gary Farrow, is still under cross-examination by Trump's attorney, Todd Blanche. NBC's Vaughn Hilliard is at that courthouse for us. What's the latest, Vaughn?
Right now, Todd Blanche is currently cross-examining Gary Farrow, that former First Republic banker who set up that LLC account for Michael Cohen in late October of 2016 and then effectively wire transferred the $130,000 payment to the attorney representing Stormy Daniels. And under this cross-examination, Todd Blanche is asking very specific questions about the relationship that they perceived Michael Cohen to have with Donald Trump. Number one, that they never heard him directly talk about Trump, and that he, Michael Cohen, had told the bank that he was working not as an actor for anybody else. And then even in January of 2017, the defense team is trying to get at the fact that the bank did not take Michael Cohen too seriously as it extended to his relationship with the newly sworn-in President Trump in January of 2017, asking under bank regulations that a client must attest to them being a politically exposed person if they are setting up an account. And Michael Cohen did not fit that designation in their books. So what the defense team is essentially doing is making the case that they did not view Michael Cohen as somebody who was working too directly aligned with Donald Trump, but was working independently from him.
Danny, let's get your reaction to this latest reporting.
Yeah, I mean, the Gary Farrow testimony is going along kind of the way I expected it would. I mean, if you cross-examine Gary Farrow, and I'm thinking about, Todd Blanche, and we have an idea what areas he's exploring. I mean, you can go after Farrow and say, hey, you were sloppy. Hey, you should have seen some red flags. I don't really know what that advances for the defense. In a way, Farrow is good for the people, but there are some pluses for the defense as well. And I wonder, looking back, they may have brought this out, but the people probably should have focused on this if they did. I'm not sure. They may have focused on this in their direct, but brought out that, hey, Donald Trump wasn't anywhere to be seen in these transactions with Cohen. They don't really need Farrow to establish if Trump was there or not there. They'll use other witnesses for that. But the key is the parts that Farrow has been key on is this transaction from Cohen to Davidson. It's there. It's undeniable. They've proven that element of their case. So, I mean, whatever headway defense makes on cross-examination of Gary Farrow, and they'll make the point that Trump wasn't anywhere near this transaction, at least as far as Farrow saw. But the people know they have to shore that up and build their case and bring in other witnesses to tie in Cohen to Trump and Trump's hands on this. I expect that's why we're going to see Hope Hicks, maybe some other witnesses who may or may not have heard or seen something that would tie Trump to this transaction.
And we're just getting word that the testimony of Gary Farrow has just wrapped up. As far as his cross-examination, they've moved into redirect. We'll keep an eye and see what that looks like. But Charles, our Lisa Rubin in the court said it did seem like Trump's lawyer was trying to use Farrow to paint Cohen as a liar, somebody who deceived the bank, deceived others. And so clearly they're establishing him as more of a solo operator. Is that an effective strategy?
Well, it could be if the jury's going to buy it. Ultimately, what you're trying to do, to Danny's earlier point, is disconnect or put Donald Trump as far away from these transactions as possible and make it so that it's almost as though these people acted perhaps on Trump's behalf or to his benefit, but without his knowledge or without his instruction. And I think that part of the strategy here has to be, quite frankly, that you don't make your witnesses likable. You don't make the prosecution's witnesses likable. You make them seem a little sleazy. I expect them to try and throw some mud on Stormy Daniels. I expect them to try to throw some mud on Michael Cohen so that these are not likable people, so that it all seems as though you guys are pretty much all without clean hands, and therefore it's not necessarily fair or just to convict Donald Trump when everybody here sort of had either bad motives or was involved in a way that they shouldn't have been. And I think that that's part of the defense's strategy, and you'll see that more and more, particularly when Michael Cohen actually takes the stand. So, this is something that is not to be unexpected. The prosecution is going to try and distance Donald Trump, and then at the same time try and sully the names and the reputations and the actions, quite frankly, of many of the other prosecution witnesses.
Okay, Gary Farrow is done. He's stepping down now. Who's next, Danny?
Oh, that's unfair. I really, it could be anyone.
Look into the crystal ball for me.
Yeah, I mean, I expect, so for example, Karen McDougal, we may see Karen McDougal, but while she is an example of a flashy witness, she doesn't really advance the ball that much for the prosecution. You could argue that she isn't really even necessary or minimally necessary. So we have a lot of potential witnesses in this case that are explosive, flashy, exciting, but some of them aren't necessarily that compelling in terms of proving the facts and the elements that the prosecution needs. Stormy Daniels is kind of an example of that. I mean, arguably, you've already gotten the Gary Farrow testimony. We've got the transaction. The documents are in. That transaction is what it is. The jury either believes it or they don't, but there's documents to back it up. So we have an unusual, this isn't that uncommon in trials. You'll have witnesses that put on a show, but the substantive witnesses, you might make an argument that a Gary Farrow was more important to the people's case than, say, a Karen McDougal, which is a transaction that Trump isn't even charged with in this case. But everyone wants to hear from her. Why not?
Yeah, and we just are told the court has moved into recess. No word yet, Charles, on who is coming next. So same question to you. We've got Karen McDougal out there, Stormy Daniels, Michael Cohen, Hope Hicks, Keith Davidson. Who do you think should be called next if you're the prosecutor?
I'm going to go with either Davidson or McDougal. I don't know that I'm using Stormy Daniels yet, only because she's one of the bigger names left. I think that you do have to have a witness who's going to add some level of flavor back to the prosecution's case just to keep the jury engaged. Gary Farrow is not a witness that's going to be pretty exciting for the jury, and you don't want to lose them because you're going to need them to be able to follow everything that's taking place. And as of right now, the prosecution has not gotten to the point where Donald Trump has committed any crime. And so you have to keep the jury engaged. And right now, Gary Farrow's not going to do it. So I would expect them to come back with someone who's going to have a little bit of flavor, a little bit of scintillating testimony, just to make sure that the jury stays engaged and you can continue presenting your case in chief.
Charles Coleman, Danny Savalos, our thanks to both of you, as well as Von Hilliard, as he continues to report outside the courthouse.